In the heart of the quaint village of Ravenshade lay a secret so ominous, so unsettling, that the villagers dared not speak its name aloud. It was a curse that had clung to Ravenshade for centuries, a dark force that emanated from the depths of the cursed well that stood foreboding in the center of the village square. Legend had it that the well was once a source of life, providing cool, refreshing water to the villagers and their livestock. But the tranquility of Ravenshade shattered when a wicked sorcerer, banished from the neighboring lands, sought refuge in the village. With malevolent intent, he cursed the well, unleashing a torrent of darkness that seeped into the very soul of Ravenshade. As the first shadows of the curse descended, the once thriving village began to wither. Crops failed, livestock perished, and the once joyful laughter of children turned to haunted whispers in the wind. Fear gripped the hearts of the villagers, and they dared not approach the well that had become a symbol of their suffering. Years passed, and the curse deepened its roots. The once close-knit community became a ghostly remnant of its former self. Villagers spoke in hushed tones of apparitions that wandered the streets at night, their mournful cries echoing through the desolate village square. Some claimed to have seen the spirit of the sorcerer, his eyes ablaze with malevolence, guarding the well that had become a gateway to the netherworld. Rumors spread that the curse demanded a sacrifice to appease the malevolent forces that lingered within the well. Desperation drove the villagers to dark deeds as they cast suspicious glances at their neighbors, wondering who among them would be chosen to satisfy the insatiable hunger of the curse. Families turned against each other, accusing one another of harboring sinister secrets, all the while avoiding the cursed well that stood as a silent witness to their torment. One fateful night, as the moon cast an eerie glow upon Ravenshade, a young woman named Ilara found herself drawn to the well. The village had whispered her name in hushed tones, labeling her as an outsider, a stranger whose arrival coincided with the worsening of the curse. Ilara, unaware of the accusations that surrounded her, approached the well with a heavy heart. As she stood before the cursed well, a cold wind whispered through the village square, carrying with it the anguished moans of the past. Ilara felt the weight of the curse pressing upon her, and she hesitated for a moment. But something compelled her to peer into the dark abyss of the well, and as she did, the malevolent spirits within stirred. The ground trembled beneath her feet, and a ghostly figure emerged from the well's depths, the sorcerer himself, his eyes ablaze with an otherworldly fire. Ilara, paralyzed with fear, watched as the sorcerer pointed a spectral finger at her, condemning her to become the sacrifice that would, perhaps, finally satiate the curse. The villagers, awakened by the unearthly commotion, gathered in the square to witness the dreadful scene. Ilara, now a vessel for the curse, slowly descended into the well, her anguished cries echoing through the village. As she vanished into the darkness, a haunting silence settled over Ravenshade. The curse, momentarily appeased, retreated back into the depths of the well, leaving the village in an uneasy stillness. The villagers, burdened by guilt and grief, avoided the village square, where the cursed well stood as a solemn reminder of the price paid to silence the malevolent forces that lurked within. Ravenshade, forever changed, would carry the scars of the curse of the cursed well, in its very soul. Nestled at the edge of a dense forest, the abandoned schoolhouse of Hollowbrook stood as a relic of a bygone era. Once a place of learning and laughter, it now loomed in eerie silence, its windows shattered and doors creaking in the wind. The villagers spoke of the schoolhouse with hushed tones, cautioning their children to stay far away, for it was said that the spirits of the past still roamed its desolate halls. Amanda, a curious teenager with a penchant for the macabre, could not resist the allure of the abandoned schoolhouse. Fueled by a mix of bravado and teenage rebellion, she gathered her friends one moonlit night to explore the dilapidated structure that cast long, ghostly shadows in the pale light. The air around Hollowbrook Schoolhouse was thick with an unnatural chill, as the group approached the entrance. The moon cast an ethereal glow on the crumbling bricks, and the once vibrant playground now lay still, devoid of the laughter that had once echoed through its rusting swings and slides. The friends entered cautiously, their footsteps reverberating through the empty halls. The air inside felt oppressive, and a lingering scent of dampness and decay clung to the peeling wallpaper. As they ventured deeper, the atmosphere thickened, and a sense of foreboding settled over them. In the long-forgotten classrooms, remnants of a forgotten time lay scattered, rotting textbooks, broken desks, and faded chalkboards. The silence was broken only by the distant hoot of an owl and the occasional rustling of unseen creatures. Uneasy whispers passed among the friends as they explored, their flashlights cutting through the darkness like feeble beacons. As they reached the second floor, a distant sound echoed through the halls, a haunting melody that seemed to emanate from nowhere. The group froze, exchanging fearful glances. The melody, a melancholic tune that sent shivers down their spines, grew louder with each step. The friends followed the haunting sound, unable to resist its ethereal pull. They arrived at the entrance of the auditorium, its double doors hanging askew on rusted hinges. The room was bathed in an otherworldly glow, and the source of the haunting melody became clear. A spectral figure, a young girl in a tattered school uniform, sat at an old piano. Her fingers danced across the keys with an ethereal grace, producing a haunting melody that seemed to echo through the ages. The friends, transfixed by the ghostly performance, watched in awe as the apparition continued to play. It was a scene frozen in time, a spectral remnant of a long-lost school recital. Yet, the beauty of the music couldn't mask the underlying sadness that permeated the air. As the last haunting note echoed through the auditorium, the ghostly pianist turned her hollow gaze toward the intruders. The room grew colder, and a chilling wind swept through, extinguishing their flashlights. Panic set in as the friends stumbled over each other in the darkness, desperate to escape the malevolent presence that now enveloped them. Whispers filled the air, echoing the regrets and sorrows of the past. Shadows danced on the walls as the spirits of former students and teachers materialized, their faces etched with sorrow. Amanda and her friends, overwhelmed by the paranormal onslaught, fled the schoolhouse in terror, leaving behind the spectral inhabitants to their eternal lament. From that night onward, the villagers spoke of the haunting melody that echoed through the Hollowbrook schoolhouse at the witching hour, a mournful reminder of the spirits that lingered within, forever trapped in the purgatory of their unfinished stories. The abandoned schoolhouse, a place that once echoed with the laughter of children, now stood as a mausoleum of lost souls, a chilling testament to the lingering horrors of the past. In the small town of Greenwood, nestled beneath a canopy of ancient oaks, lived a curious little boy named Tommy. Tommy was an ordinary child in most respects, but he possessed an extraordinary pen, a pen that, unbeknownst to him, wielded the power to breathe life into his drawings. Tommy's pen, gifted to him by his eccentric uncle, had a magical aura. As he drew, his creations leaped from the page, transforming his whimsical imaginings into tangible reality. At first, it was a source of joy and wonder. Tommy conjured fantastical creatures that danced in his bedroom and conjured candy clouds that rained sugary drops in the yard. The townsfolk marveled at Tommy's artistic prowess, blissfully unaware of the darker turn his drawings were about to take. One gloomy afternoon, with raindrops tapping against the window, Tommy decided to draw his dream pet, a loyal, shadowy creature with eyes that gleamed like polished onyx. As the pen glided across the paper, a low growl emanated from the page, and the creature materialized, its form oozing into existence like liquid shadows. Tommy named his newfound companion Inkwell, and together they explored the rainy town, leaving wet footprints in their wake. The townsfolk, enchanted by the mysterious creature, offered smiles and nods as Tommy and Inkwell passed by. But as days turned to weeks, the once friendly townsfolk began to sense a subtle shift in the air. One evening, as Tommy sat in his room sketching absent-mindedly, a sinister idea took root in his mind. He drew a dark, twisted forest that materialized around Greenwood, casting an eerie gloom over the once idyllic town. The trees creaked with malevolent intent, and their gnarled branches reached out like skeletal fingers, whispering secrets of shadows and nightmares. The townsfolk, now mere pawns in Tommy's drawings, found themselves trapped in a waking nightmare. The once cheerful candy clouds turned into stormy tempests that lashed the town with relentless fury. Inkwell, once a loyal companion, transformed into a monstrous entity with eyes that glowed with a hunger for fear. Greenwood became a realm of perpetual twilight, haunted by the monstrous manifestations of Tommy's imagination. Terrifying creatures prowled the shadowy streets, and the once vibrant town square became a desolate wasteland where the echoes of laughter had long been silenced. The townsfolk, now living in fear, sought out Tommy in desperation. They pleaded with him to undo the horrors he had unleashed upon Greenwood, but Tommy, intoxicated by the dark power of his pen, dismissed their pleas with a sinister grin. As the nightmares intensified, Tommy's once innocent drawings twisted into grotesque visions of horror. The once beautiful park now hosted twisted carnival rides that creaked and groaned with an otherworldly malevolence. The townsfolk, their faces etched with terror, became mere caricatures of their former selves, trapped in a grotesque funhouse mirror of their worst nightmares. In a moment of clarity, Tommy realized the nightmare he had wrought upon Greenwood. Consumed by guilt and fear, he attempted to erase his monstrous creations with frantic strokes of his magical pen. But the more he tried to undo his drawings, the more the nightmare tightened its grip. The townsfolk, now living in a perpetual state of dread, turned their gaze upon Tommy with accusing eyes. Inkwell, once a creation of delight, transformed into a nightmarish entity that mirrored the twisted visions of the town. Tommy, now trapped in his own malevolent creation, became a prisoner in a town swallowed by darkness. And so, Greenwood, once a haven of tranquility, remained ensnared in the nightmarish drawings of a little boy and his magical pen, a cautionary tale of the fine line between innocent imagination and the horrifying reality it could become. The once cheerful town, now a macabre canvas of horror, served as a haunting reminder of the consequences when a child's fantasies turned into a waking nightmare.